Welcome to My Big Safety Challenge, a podcast all about stories of safety leadership, presented by Dale Carnegie and the Board of Certified Safety Professionals.
What was once just a dream, an idea, this podcast, My Big Safety Challenge, is now entering its 7th season. Over 52 different guests from a variety of different industries who came together to talk about challenges, situations they were facing. People from some big companies and organizations that are household names, and other organizations that were much smaller. But one common denominator, the fact that we have challenges we have to face. And because of the vision of the Board of Certified Safety Professionals, BCSP, and the Dale Carnegie organization, this podcast came about to be of a help to the worldwide network of safety professionals. My name is Merle Heckman, and I've had the great opportunity to be the host throughout all 7 of these seasons and to get to guide these conversations with, quite honestly, some unique individuals. I work and teach for the Dale Carnegie organization, and we focus on the idea of helping the employees and the safety professionals reach their employees to guide and encourage a want-to attitude in safety. And for this season, it's my great privilege to welcome Jim Frederick, who's going to be the co-host. Jim, you were a guest here last season, and we're honored to have you here. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Merle. It is very, very nice to be back to the BCSP studio, to have the opportunity to sit with you at this end of the table and talk to some wonderful guests here over this course of the season, and really hope that we pull out some wonderful stories to share, some incredible insight and information that people can take home, put back to work when they get to work tomorrow, and also find some enjoyment in the conversation to help motivate them in the work that they do. Because everyone that listens to this podcast, if they're a health and safety professional or do something else and just interested in the podcast, are doing important work.
Yes.
And we want to make certain that we are here in support of their work and making them have a better day today when they listen to the podcast.
As you said, our goal is to make the information practical and real to life from real people with real situations. And thinking of the real situations we're going to hear about in this season. For example, we have a gentleman that has spent his life in the steel industry who is living evidence of the power of enthusiasm and influence as he talks about guiding people and being interested in people. We've got another gentleman that came in, worked 17 years as an hourly employee in the steel industry, but then had the opportunity to train in human performance and to teach other people how to value human beings. We have a guest that started a business and built it from the ground level up, became very successful, sold it, and rather than just spend life just gallivanting around the world, he has a valuable goal to reduce workplace deaths, eliminate them even, by the year 2050. And he'll talk about that adventure and what's involved with that. I believe another guest that we have that's so helpful, again, a 30-year employee from OSHA who retired, but left his mark, not just on the agency, but with the companies he worked with by understanding and valuing people. We have other folks that are coming in that lead their organizations. We have a gentleman that is coming in that is going to speak about dealing with the drug culture and people who are addicted, and that's something that's affected so many people. So the great part of this season, practical. Now, Jim, I'd like these folks just to get to know a bit about you, because you've had a wonderful career and still have a wonderful career in what you're doing with safety. Could you tell us a little bit about that so folks can get to know you a bit better?
Sure, Merle. Thank you for that, and appreciative. Let me start with what I'm doing currently, because I'm in a bit of a new role. Started in January of this year, and I am the commissioner of the Department of Labor and Industry with the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I'm in Virginia, the Commonwealth, the state of Virginia, and the role at the Department of Labor and Industry includes running a state OSHA program. Also, responsibilities in ensuring that we have a wage and hour program to make certain that pay and overtime is properly given out to folks. We also have a unique role in making certain that boilers and pressure vessels in the Commonwealth are registered, regularly inspected from a workplace, but also a public safety perspective, because when something goes wrong with a boiler, it certainly can have an impact, not just on the employees at the workplace, but anyone that's at the facility, if it's a hospital or a school. And so those are the three primary areas of work currently. We just recently finished in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state legislative cycle. And coming out of that, there are several new laws that have been sent to the governor for consideration. And over the next few weeks, we'll see how they progress through the process that will add some additional roles to the Department of Labor and Industry.
Now, Jim, that is a fascinating way to be of a help and service to people. But for many of the people that listen here in the United States, 50 states, and everything's a little bit different. Can you just, your state in Virginia now is one way. Can you just give us a broad overview of how states approach this matter?
I can certainly try to. The way I like to think through this is we're sitting today in Indianapolis, Indiana at the BCSP headquarters. I grew up in the state of Indiana.
So you're a Hoosier?
I'm a Hoosier.
Okay.
I'm a Hoosier. And so I grew up in the state of Indiana. And you know, that sixth grade or middle school social studies class where we learned about how state government worked, I took here in the state of Indiana. I certainly have had quite a bit of a learning curve to climb in the Commonwealth of Virginia to make certain that I properly understand how the Commonwealth works. And it's interesting in Virginia is that many of the processes that are in place today for the state government functions predate the Revolutionary War and were put in place by folks like Thomas Jefferson. And so some of the process and rules of the road that are followed in the Commonwealth of Virginia truly do date back to the Jeffersonian time frame of the rules that were put in place there. So learning how the state of Indiana worked, I've had to learn a little bit different process in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, so to think of it in terms of the states across the United States, of all 50 states and some territories and things as well, I like to think of it from a health and safety perspective of running the country down to about half and half. It's not quite the right numbers, but roughly half of the states have chosen to put in place a state plan occupational safety and health program, a state plan OSHA.
Okay.
The federal government obviously runs the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and but within the law that put the OSHA Act, the Occupational Safety and Health Act from 1970, a state has an opportunity to choose to put in a state version of the program. Like I said, roughly half of the states have done that in a couple of territories, and so those programs that are in place have all of the authority of the OSHA Act, but to run from the Commonwealth of Virginia in our instance, or the state of Indiana where we're sitting currently, are both state programs, two examples of state programs. So for a health and safety professional, the first thing to do is to recognize and understand whether or not the state that they live in has a state plan OSHA or if federal OSHA has jurisdiction. And then there's a little bit of overlap. So for example, a federal facility inside of a state with a state program is still overseen by the federal OSHA program. So there's a little bit of explanation that needs to go along with all that. But from a health and safety perspective, I always suggest that folks start there, recognize and understand what's going on within their state construct of the regulator, and then better understand how the regulator works. Is it, again, the federal government? Is it my state government? And then get to know the folks that are operating that program, be it the federal system with their local area office and or their regional office, and the comparable offices across a state program.
So it sounds like you are certainly an advocate of people taking time to get to know those government officials, whether the federal or an OSHA or whether the state level, the value of that.
I have said for my entire work life that health and safety, people engaged and involved in health and safety, and spent a considerable amount of my career working with organized labor, providing health and safety support to local unions and to an international union, or 3 international unions over the course of my career. I have always contended that workers and safety professionals and employers with responsibility for health and safety at their workplace should take the time to get to know the system of the regulator and also introduce themselves to the points of contact at the OSHA office. And, the way I've always said it is you make an appointment with, in the federal system, the area office director, in a state system with the comparable person at the state enforcement office near you. In some states, that's a centralized office. In other states, it's across the state. And just go in and get to know them a little bit, meet with them, bring the appropriate folks from your team to sit down and have a conversation. Let the regulator know who you are, what you're doing in health and safety, what your vision and your plan for your safety and health management system is, what you produce or manufacture, or what kind of service you do at your facility, and have some dialogue.
Now, some people would say, though, oh, no, I just want to lie under the radar. I don't want anybody to know me. Help us know what you see as the benefit.
Yeah. No. I think the why in this is, at some point in time during the course of a health and safety professional's career, there's going to be some interaction with the regulator, more than likely. Some folks maybe go through their whole career and not, but more than likely you're going to have some interaction with the regulator. And if the first time you're having a conversation with the regulator is when it's there for a complaint or a serious incident or a programmed inspection, that's probably the wrong time to have that first conversation. But if you can back up and, again, just have some exchange, some dialogue. I have always thought that looking at the regulator, looking at the state or the federal OSHA program as the person with the black hat that's just here to do the enforcement is the wrong way to look at it. There, in my opinion, there is a symbiotic relationship between OSHA as an entity and the health and safety of workers in every workplace in this country, but also around the world. And that symbiotic relationship is important. And if we grow and cultivate and take care and maintain that relationship, it can only help to benefit workplace and worker health and safety writ large across the board, across this country and around the world.
Jim, that really fits with one of the themes that we see popping up with our guests, the power and advantage and benefit of developing a relationship with government officials, yes, but in our own workplace, with our employees and with people throughout the levels of the organization. The ability to maintain, and to cultivate a relationship makes a huge difference with the operation of safety and the culture of safety.
Yeah. So, I'd like to think of that in terms of a way to look at that as an inside-out approach. First, looking inside of your organization as the health and safety professional. Who are the various people and parts of that system that I, as the health and safety person, need to be engaged and involved with? The highest level management for the facility, down to the folks that are engaged and involved with maintenance and making sure the facility operates correctly, to the operators or the labor that is doing the work, the people that are actually doing the work at the facility, to the engineers, to the accountants, to make certain when we have a resource need to make a purchase that they understand the importance of the safety and health management at that facility, so that we can make sure that the proper process is taken care of with the folks that take care of the important part of taking care of the money at the facility.
And Jim, that's why the principles of Dale Carnegie and how to win friends and influence people are so fitting for what you just described. Because when you look at the 30 human relation principles that Dale Carnegie gave, half of them use the phrase, the other person. Become genuinely interested in the other person. Look at things from the other person's point of view, and be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
And that is so foundational in life and the work we do, to realize the world doesn't revolve around us and our particular part of the operation. There are other people, and breaking those barriers down by developing a genuine, respectful relationship can make things go so much smoother when they realize we're not all about ourselves. We're here to try to work together with each other as a team. It's a huge difference.
I totally agree. And again, throughout my work career, I have certainly been in many, many times a situation where that relationship needed to be part and parcel to the conversation. That if we only looked at the situation with the negative nature of the health and safety concern, issue, or challenge that we were facing, and did not think of it in terms of the impact on all of the people, all of the human beings that were involved, we were really missing the boat. And unfortunately, one of the things that I have done over the course of my life is to perform a significant number of fatality investigations. And that's probably at least one of the things at the end of the spectrum on workplace health and safety that I hope that folks do not have to do ever, but sometimes we will. And B, that when we are engaged and involved with that, we need to keep a very much of an objective view of the situation and make certain that we are not coming at it from a very emotional perspective, but much more of an objective perspective, and utilizing all of the skills that each of us brings to the equation as a health and safety professional, of the technical issues of recognizing, understanding the hazard or hazards that caused or contributed to the incident that resulted. Also recognizing and understand the controls that could have, should have, and need to now be in place to make certain it doesn't happen again. But then also understanding the systems approach of what is the underlying health and safety management system that led to the failure in the system that allowed that hazard to come into contact with a worker. And then the people that contribute to all of those parts I just mentioned, and making certain that from everyone, from the highest ranking official from the facility to the person that was just hired to come in and be part of the labor force that does whatever that facility does to produce a good or a service, and make sure that we understand the perspective of those folks in that equation, because everybody has a role to play in making the corrections that should be in place to ensure that the similar event doesn't happen again in the future.
And what you said just reminds us of the whole idea of an organization is like a system. And just like the human body has the various systems throughout that, when you're in an organization as a safety professional, you'd like to think that what you're doing is the most important and is vital.
Yep.
But all those other parts of the system have their unique dynamics that they're having to face.
Yep.
And the person is willing to make the investment in time to develop a professional, genuine relationship with other people, one of respect of each other, and to get to know each other a bit, sets the stage for what you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But it's the right thing to make the investment ahead of time,
right,
rather than when the middle of the whirlwind,
right,
when it all hits.
And Merle, we I started with this inside out approach.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And we got down the path of the inside approach of what's going on inside of the workplace after a bad incident or something. But then let's think about the outside facing for just 1 minute.
Yes.
In my opinion, that includes, from a health and safety professional's perspective, peers that are doing health and safety work elsewhere, inclusive of, I would always hope, inclusive of the regulatory agency, OSHA or whomever the regulator is for that workplace, the health and safety professionals that work in those roles. But that outward-facing network that should, could, and can be so beneficial if it is built is really the way to help advance health and safety in any given workplace, to learn from our peers, to hear about what challenges they're facing. Similar to this podcast, this can certainly be part of the network of resources that people look to find some answers. But building it locally with other facilities in your direct area, building it across the corporation that you may work for, building it around the world when it's possible to do. And from a worker who's engaged and involved with health and safety, there are also ways to do that with coworkers, workers that work on the same job, maybe a different shift or a different job from across the facility, but has some similar hazards to deal with, and recognize and understand how they control them in their job. To talking to people in other workplaces, to getting to know people again across other industries, and making certain that you're engaged and involved talking about workplace health and safety, and that recognizing and controlling those hazards and unsafe conditions that are in the workplace, to make sure that everybody gets to go home the end of the day, end of the week, end of the year, just like they got to work safely, and go home to their family.
I think the wonderful thing that some safety professionals overlook too, forget about, is not only are they helping that individual to go back home, probably a little bit more tired than when they started the day, but they're going back home healthy, but they are having an opportunity to influence those family members, because when they see the mom or the dad or the sibling or somebody else who has adopted the lifestyle of safety, and that's caught by the people that are watching them, it can have a ripple effect across the way of what's going on. And so the work of the safety professional is far beyond just the people that they see. Yet, Jim, at the same time, we have to realize that we need to be the initiator rather than waiting for everybody else to come to us. Well, when they want me, they'll come talk to me. The wise safety professional says, let me take the initiative to go to the local OSHA office. Let me take the initiative to be in contact with other people. Let me take the initiative to know other people within my organization, to learn about them, how I could be of a help to them. Be the initiator, and just don't wait for everybody to come to you.
And also, Merle, back to the inside view of that, to also make sure you're engaged and involved with folks across your workplace. Again, whatever that workplace looks like. If there's going to be a rather complex and complicated maintenance operation that's taking place on Sunday at midnight, because that's the only time it can happen and not interfere with production, well, you probably need to make arrangements to try to be there as the safety and health person for that complex, complicated process, to make certain that the safety and health elements are properly accounted for, the controls measures are in place before the job starts, so that that job can happen safely.
And Jim, just as we start to wrap this time up, this idea of what we share on these podcasts is these people who have lived and experienced. And I will remind our listeners, the people who come here, they don't always have everything figured out, and they're facing new challenges and new situations. So if you're a person that's listening to this podcast and you feel somewhat isolated or somewhat almost alone at times, this is a resource for you, to help you hear from the lives, the experiences, the thrills of victory that some people have, and yes, some of those agonies of defeat that some people have. And so our goal is for this podcast, sponsored by BCSP and Dale Carnegie, to be a resource for you and a benefit to you as you do the great work of encouraging and guiding people to be safe and well so they can take care of their lives and their families. And we are grateful for your participation and look forward to this, the 7th season.
Thanks for listening to My Big Safety Challenge, a podcast produced in partnership by Dale Carnegie and BCSP, with your hosts, Dale Carnegie Master Trainer Merle Heckman and Jim Frederick, Commissioner of Labor at the Virginia Department of Labor and Industry. Executive produced by Nathan Wilson. Produced by Joel Burgai. Directed by Giachi Liu. Edited by Jay Griot, Kyla Anderson, and David Metz. Editorial support from Brandon Mohaupt and Morgan Hood. Social media support from Braylon Morgan and Crystal Keithley. To have new episodes delivered directly to you, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. If you would like to share your story of a safety leadership challenge you faced, email us at info@mybigsafetychallenge.com. See you next time.